Okay, Trend to Change, Renaissance Man here, and I really wanted to do this video because it's something close to my heart, and I really after watching a particular video on YouTube and Facebook, it's been shared quite a lot about the female member of staff in Asda who claims to be in-house security harassing a person who has a dog that is a working dog, an assistant dog, which is absolutely crazy. I'm not going to do a reaction video because you've probably seen it, and there's an awful lot of other videos about a lot of different things, about different viewpoints, everything else. So I'm going to get into the woman from Asda and her attitude, and using my experiences in security and using what I know, I'm going to break a few things down on the purpose of security and what they should and shouldn't be doing. So first off, there are nine protected areas within the law. I'm not going to go into them, but for instance, gender, marital status, sexual preference, religion, etc., etc. One of those is people who have a need for a service dog. Now, there isn't anything to suggest that they have to have something they don't need a license for this. Anybody can really say whether a dog is a service dog or not. Those people who want to take advantage of the situation can do that. I've had that in my life. I can't really gainsay that because that is not their responsibility. However, you need to use a bit of common sense. Most people who are genuine, though, and do have that need, will buy a coat cover saying service dog. Blind dogs are quite easy to see because of the handles and everything that they use. And most people are pretty much responsible. The woman in the video from Asda, clearly service dog. It was there for her to utilize in whatever situation it may be. And most security officers will be like, yeah, not a problem, go ahead. There is no need to interject anything. A security guard should really be a light switch on the wall. When they are needed, they're there, they do their job, they do it professionally, they do it courteously, they do it nicely but firmly. We're not friends, but we want to appear friendly, we want to appear reasonably and do the job. When that's finished, head off. Given the fact that security officers do have a almost impossible job, we do sometimes we can sometimes lose our patience, but that's why you have teamwork. Ideally, security should be in a team. I have worked as a static security guard by myself in retail. Not the most ideal, but it can get quite involved at times. But, you know, if you've got members of staff and management with you, normally you can actually talk with them and say, I've got a problem, and you can get the backup there. This woman who was a manager clearly should have known a lot better than how she reacted. Whether or not anybody else is complaining is beside the point, if they have that clear indication there. So, on the protected parts, she should have left well alone. It was unacceptable for her to act that way. Now, that's that sort of nailed down. That's all I'm going to say. The second one I want to talk about is what happens when you go on to a place that has security guards working on site. They have them there. Let's say, for example, my last security job, I was working on a leisure complex. We didn't go inside the units, but we patrolled outside to ensure that the rules of the ground are kept. And usually these leisure complexes, they are owned by a landlord who rents the units out for people to use for their business. And it is what we call private land. It is private land. There is no assumption of rights to walk through it. However, it can be used as a walkway, and it can be used to pass through and to go from one to the other. There is no problem with people walking through. It has an exit from one end, exit to the other, walk through, but there is no assumed rights of public passage. If the landlord wished to, he could put a gates on the entrances and exit, and actually have staff monitoring and actually saying whereabouts they are using the premises for A, B and C to use the units within, or are you just passing through. And they actually do have the right to block off those entrances and exits. Most don't, but there are some who do. Now, when you enter onto a premise, much as a supermarket or let's say a cinema that may have different entertainments and everything else like that, you undertake a non-verbal, non-signatory contract that you will follow the instructions of staff and security whilst they are on the premises. Now, I saw a video where there's a sign saying no roller skating or no rollerblading, no bikes, no skateboarding, etc., etc. These are usually put into place as a caveat underneath saying this is not an exhaustive list, which means that if in this particular example, I watched a video where a guy was on the scooter and was filming, and he said, well, it doesn't say anything about not using scooters. Why should it need to be? There will be instructions given to security guards and to staff that whilst there is a sign, a normally sign saying not exhaustive, it means that if the management say we don't want scooters on this premises, then the staff are instructed to say, can you please stop using the scooter? Or the security guards will say that and say, please don't use that here. If you wish to use it, please remove yourself from the premises. If that happens, you are obliged to follow, as it says all over the place, that it is understood that people will follow the instructions of staff. If security do that, then they are usually under instructions to say, do not do whatever it is that you are doing. Okay, it is a simple instruction that has been authorized, that you are on the understanding that if you are instructed, then you will do. Same as if there is a fire or an emergency, you will follow the instructions of the staff and security who have a normal operating procedure and an emergency action plan. In that it states various given tasks, various given things that the staff should do to ensure the safe running of the area. So, for example, like this guy with the scooter who was saying, the sign doesn't say that. maybe not. However, if a security or member staff give instructions and say, we do not allow this, then that is the decision of the management, of the landowner, etc., that is the case. According to that understood contract of when you walk on, so let's say, and usually there are signs saying no alcohol or anything else like that. If you are carrying a bottle of alcohol, even though on the premises, even though you may not be drinking it, if you say, can you please remove yourself, you have a bottle of alcohol, then you are obliged to follow the instructions. Whether you are drinking it or not, you are asked to remove yourself. If there is a case of, in certain circumstances where for entertainment purposes somebody is video recording and they are asked not to, there may be a varied reason as to why, from child protection to certain things. You might have a protected group of people in there that may not wish to be recorded, such as people with various disabilities. They may not wish to be recorded. Okay, there are several reasons as to why a security may say, can you please not do that, because they have been given instructions. If they give you instructions and say, can you not do that, then on that property, the landlord has given the instructions to do that. You are under an assumed contract that you will follow the instructions of the security guard. If they request that you stop doing it and you continue to do it, and then they ask you to leave, then that means that if you do not stop, they have the right to request leave the premises and move away from the premises. If you refuse to, and they say remove yourself, it is then a matter of trespass. Now, trespass is and I've heard all the stories, but let's get down to what trespass is. Trespass is a civil matter, okay? It's a civil matter, not a police matter. The time it becomes a police matter if that trespasser then starts committing a crime such as assault or something of that nature. Then it becomes a police matter. However, with trespass, if you refuse to leave a premises after being given a reasonable instruction, let's say that you are recording a certain activity that the management does not accept, and there are reasons as to why, then you are under a contractual agreement to remove yourself or to stop the activity. If you stop the activity, hey, not a problem. Go, do whatever it is else that you're doing, but, to stop that. If you then refuse to stop that, then the security have the right to say, if you do not just stop doing the recording of this, then we will have to ask you to leave, which you are then under obligation to leave the premises. If you refuse to do that, a security guard does have the right, under a civil action, to remove that particular person by way of escorting, however it may be, with reasonable force given the situation. So if they request you to remove yourself and then they guide you out, they are allowed to guide you out. Okay? Now, I have heard, and I've been under the situation where somebody says, oh, you have to give me my own personal space, and this goes back to the lockdown thing of the 2 meters, whatever it may be, which is now non-existent. You can stand as close to or as far away as you wish to someone, whether or not it's in their personal space. If they don't like it, then they can move away. But for the purpose of removing someone, if you legally, with reasonable force, determined by the situation, escort somebody off the premises, maybe with an open hand on the middle of the back, escort them off with reasonable force, then that is not assault. That is a reasonable removal of the person on private property. Now, public spaces and everything else like that, some private properties are deemed public spaces where the public have reasonable use of the reasonable use. A supermarket, or as where I was working, is a public space. Even if it is owned by a landlord or anything else, it is a public space. However, even though it is a public space, where a set of buildings or a land is owned, the landlord does reserve the right to remove those people that they feel they do not want on that land. The only places where you cannot be removed unless under very specific circumstances, such as illegal action, is the public highway, which is the streets, and the public walkways surrounding the areas, such as centre of towns, pedestrianised places, etc., where the council have the running of the place. On private property, there are different rules. Even though private property is a public place, the security officers, staff, etc., still reserve certain rights to say, no, we don't want you on here, even though it's a public space. For example, a leisure centre is a public space, but it is also private property. You are there to use the facilities in a reasonable manner. If you are requested to remove yourself because you are not using that facility, then you can be asked to remove yourself. And if you do not, then there is a matter of again, trespass, same as leisure complexes, such as the one in Bradford, the Leisure Exchange where I did work. Whilst it is a public place, it is still a private landlord held property. Very different from a pathway on the street. So I wanted to clear those sort of things up. So when you see people kind of going, oh, the sign doesn't say this, or I can do that or the other, there are different rules surrounding different places. Now, a security guard needs to use their sense, the common sense. There are some things where you basically, as a security guard, say, I'm not going to die on this hill. This is something I am not going to die on. And to be honest with you, you're just patient. You just say, look, this is how it is. This is what I've done. You're reasonable. You have everything showing, and you ask them to stop, and they are under obligations to do that. If not, you can request for them to be removed. If they try to say, oh, assault, and you've used reasonable force and you've escorted them off, like one time I had with an auditor. Okay, I'm going to say auditor. They really aren't actually authorized from anybody. They just take it on themselves to do a bit of videoing for their own ego and for their own sort of, I don't know what it is. They have a vendetta. But if you request an auditor, say, look, you know what, we don't want you doing this, we don't want you to be involved, show them the badge, show them everything else, say, right, you know what, we feel you're here to cause trouble, on you go, goodbye, thank you very much. Or if you are going to use the property, but we're not going to do any more, and just treat them like the children they are, because to be honest with you, most of these auditors are children and attention seekers. That's all they are. They're just out there for the little 15 minutes of fame, and then it's gone. Okay, and as security guards, we just kind of go, well, you know what, I'm not going to down this hill. I'm just going to deal with it quickly, politely, professionally, and then away you go, and do out the rest of the day. We're really not bothered about that. I just wanted to make, like I said, I wanted to make a few things clear on the differences between signs and how a security should act. And I'm going to finish with this. And the best one I could ever say is the original Roadhouse. The new one is a pile of trash, to be quite honest with you. Watch the original one with Patrick Swayze in. The end of the day is be nice with people. And that really actually is, at the end of the day, the secret to being a good security guard is being nice, being understanding, being professional, listening to the people, making your informed judgments. Okay, and that means if somebody has, going back to the first bit of my video, if somebody has a if somebody has an assistance dog, even if they don't have the signs on, all you need to say is, look, do me a favor, just get a jacket saying that it's an assistance dog, everything is good. On the way. That's all you need to do. To the woman who was supposedly a manager in security, and this is where I really dislike in-house. You have no badge, you have no formal training, you have no formal training in any sort of situation. I've always hated the in-house, and I've always said any security work you must have a badge to do it. I've always said that, and I always will do. And that woman, certainly, if I was her manager, I would be firing her. It's an absolute disgrace to see, and certainly one I would never, ever, ever deal with personally. If I had a security company and she came to my place of work, like, not a chance of my employing you. There is one final thing I want to share with you, and it was a situation, and I was in Bridlington, my hometown, and I was in the council, and I was in the town hall where my grandfather used to work, and it was like coming home, really. I was very honoured to work there, and I enjoyed my time there. And there was a situation where there was a couple who were in a bad way. They were having a lot of problems, and the little boy was getting a little cantankerous and, you know, a little energetic, as little boys tend to do, for 3, 4, 5 years old. It's very hard for them. And he went running behind the office desks where the worker was working in, and which shouldn't be there, but you got to be understanding about it. And I just went, hey, little man, come on over here. Don't go behind there. Come on over here. And the little boy came running over and actually came and held my hand and went straight to me. And everyone's like, the parents like, he never does that with anybody. And we went and sat behind them. I sat on a chair, and the little lad sat on the chair. And I started reading a story to him. And he sat quietly, good as gold. And when the parents came to leave, they had a hard time with taking him away because they wanted to stay and listen to the story. Okay? The moral of the story is that you don't need to be a big hard man to do security. It's about looking after people. It's about caring about people, about overseeing their safety. Okay? It's about being there so that you can inform people about the rules where you are, to help and to guide people, and to make sure that they get to where they need to be. Okay? That is the point of being a security officer. It's not about a power trip. It's not about being the big I am or anything else. It's about being there so that people feel safe. And if that is the real message that needs to be made, then that's that. If I can get that message through, then that's how, that's the main thing. That is, if I can get that message through, that's what security guards are there for, is to oversee everybody's safety. Sometimes if they have to be a little bit firm to do that, then hey, That's the job. But it's the wisdom of knowing when to do that and when to be calm, de-escalate the situation and deal with it the way it should be dealt with. Okay. I will say we're all human at the end of the day, especially security guards, and there are a lot of things that we do deal with that, quite frankly, it wears on our patience. And that's one of the big things that security guards need is patience. And sometimes you come home and you just go, oh, God, that was harder than it needed to be. But, like I said, we're human. And we try to treat people with the respect that they should have because of the simple fact that they're human beings. Okay? That's where it needs to go. So that's just a few oversights. That's just a few things about security, how one should be, how one should act, and how we should interact one with another. And most of the time, securities will just be there, seen, and to watch over people, and only when they're needed to act. Otherwise, let people get on with the day. What more can I say? Have a great day. Hope you found these insights interesting. There's a lot more to it. I'm actually going to be renewing my badge and going back into security work, and there's a few other things that I'm planning on as well. Hopefully those will come to pass. Watch this space for the future. Have a great day, and wherever you go, just remember, just be decent human beings and use a little bit of thought.